On today's episode, we are going to talk about rent and why it's been such a challenge to find an affordable rent and what you can do about it. We're also going to touch base on The Bear, the show that you guys know. For me, gives me a little bit of PTSD. I try to enjoy it, but I actually thought this one little thing that they featured in the show, I'm not sure if you guys picked up on it, but this thing that they did with watches on the show, I thought was very cool and interesting. Let's get into it. All right, guys, welcome back to Close Monday. I'm your host, Kyle and Sarah, and it's officially after July 4th weekend. So summer is in full swing. And I even got, for anybody watching here on YouTube, I got my linen shirt on here today. No, it looks like very formal. But the fact is, it's very hot. It's laundry day, and the shirt seemed right. So yeah, summer's in full swing. Hopefully you guys are taking advantage. Those of you with the outdoor patio, waterfront dining, summer vibes are in full effect. And if anybody is tracking the Copa America, any sports bars, last night, check it out. Check my bracelet right here. I got my Colombian bracelet. My wife's family is Colombian. So they were going pretty nuts last night. Crazy game over Uruguay. And it's going to be an intense match on Sunday versus Argentina. So I'm going to rest and carve up for that game because they know how to party for a football game. And football, I mean soccer. So whatever you call it, it's going to be a great game. I believe it is Sunday at 8. So those of you guys who have sports bars, I would load up on all those beers or whatever else. I know, look, in this culture, Colombian culture, aguardiente is a big thing. So wherever you are in the country, make sure you're stocked up because you're going to get those crowds. If that's your thing, if that's your vibe, obviously. But I want to get into a topic that has been hot on everybody's mind. It's always hot on everyone's mind, or high on everybody's mind, I guess, when you're looking at locations. And I think you guys are missing something. And I'm going to come at you with a little bit of a different angle today because I'm a little bit fired up about this because you guys know how it is. You get asked the same question over and over again in your restaurant. It gets to be frustrating, right? This is why we have AI. These things that are monotonous are going to be taken over by the robots, and it makes sense. But this market is a challenge right now. So if you're looking, you're either one, running into a lot of high rents, or two, you are probably just frustrated with the lack of options in the market that you're in because nobody's really going anywhere. It's sort of like the housing market. Interest rates are real high, so people with the low interest rates aren't moving. So restaurants that have been able to weather this storm for the last couple of years, they're not interested in moving and looking to pay a higher rent. So they're staying in place. And it's going to be, a little bit to play out there. We'll see what's going on. I'm starting to see a little bit more evictions, unfortunately. But I think for those of you who are active in the market, and let's say you have to open a space, because there are groups out there that have to open a space. Either you're working with a group of investors, or you have, like private equity would be a big thing. You have to be on this growth trajectory to continue the relationship. Or even if you just have a bunch of partners and you guys need to make some more cash to make this whole business work, then you have to open another location. But what do you do if you can't find a location that fits your budget? So the knee-jerk reaction is to say, well, we'll just find something smaller. We're going to go smaller. We're going to change up our footprint. We've shifted to delivery. We get it. We know that whole story. And that works. It's working for a lot of you. It's working for a lot of my clients. And they're being more strategic about their site selection using this new model and or the ability to go back to their larger size model. So that ability to go back and forth, we've kind of spoken about a bunch of times, is what's going to be successful for you. Be able to be adaptable. Okay. But aside from changing your footprint, which can be a headache for a lot of you guys, maybe you don't look exactly in the market that you're after. Let me explain. There's a lot of technology out there. We can get into that later on in another episode, but you can pretty much guess your trade area, right? So you can use this technology. There's Placer AI, there's Buxton, there's all sorts of location analytics that can help you identify your exact trade area, meaning where are your customers coming from? But you have a pretty good idea, right? You know where your guests are coming from, hopefully with some third-party data, or you're using some data of your own to track that. You can see what you're currently servicing. Now, maybe you start to look outside there for a new opportunity. And while you're looking outside that trade area, 3, 5, 10, 15, 20 miles, look for places that are emerging. So you can, again, find data on the projections of demographics and growth in your area of places that show, I think right now they're at 2023, 2025, and 2028, the data, the projections. Look for the areas around you that have the highest potential increase for growth. Okay? What does that mean? Is that there's not an exact way to figure out what the growth is going to be, but the data will point to a fact of, hey, there are such and such amount of new developments, and we think that's going to lead to this. Look for that data. You can look online at the U.S. Census Bureau. You can look at a bunch of different sites that will give you information. You can set up Google alerts that will let you know for new developments in your area. And what that's telling you is, okay, here's my market, but now 10 miles away, they're showing a potential 11% increase in the next 5 years in this market. Now you go do your homework. What's going on over here? Oh, there's a new development from Toll Brothers. Oh, the university, the college is going to become a university. They're adding more buildings, whatever. Huge new retail development, right? That's another indicator of a growing population. Those guys are doing pipelines years out. So if they've identified a place where they're putting in a Whole Foods or a Trader Joe's or some other large retailer, Costco, Sam's Club, they've done their homework. And if those are your types of customers, pay attention to those types of developments and where they're going to be coming opportunities and start looking around. What I would also focus on if you're getting real serious is attending some planning board meetings. Your broker's probably not going to do it, but you can attend these urban development meetings and you can see what the up and coming opportunities are going to be. Look just outside of your immediate trade area, presuming that you're in a very hot retail restaurant location. Look for opportunities that are not in there. Stop complaining about the rents that are in the very active hot neighborhoods and look for a new emerging neighborhood where you can find a rent that's sometimes half of what's being offered in that neighborhood that you were originally targeting. So that's one. Emerging neighborhoods. Okay, got it. A lot of words to say, hey, you can find another cheaper rent somewhere else, but do your homework. 2, lease terms. I can't tell you how many of you guys say to me, but what's the landlord willing to kick in here? That used to be my go-to. Hey, what are you willing to kick in here for my client? But as I've been in this business longer, on the real estate side, not on the operator side anymore, they got to look at your financials. What are you bringing to the table? You bring in a restaurant? Fantastic. These guys have most likely seen dozens and dozens and dozens of restaurants come and go. But what are you bringing to the table? That's my question. And that's what you need to ask yourself before you start to say, well, what are they going to do for me? So before you get to that situation, prepare yourself. Because right after you get to making an introduction, or right after you make an introduction of yourself to the landlord or via a broker, whatever that is, the next question is going to be, what do their financials look like? Because believe it or not, there are situations where guys who have $5,000 in the bank are asking for $150,000 in tenant improvement allowance from the landlord. It's not going to happen. It's a waste of everybody's time in that dynamic. Also, in that conversation, the tenant improvement allowance, which is where the landlord gives you money, I want to make something really clear. And I hope you guys, I want you to write this down and I want you to just to tell your friends about this. It's not free money. It's not free money. I don't know how else to put it. The landlord, I should put the landlord calculator up for you guys to take a look at. The landlord's going to say, okay, all right, Kyle, you want to open up a restaurant here? Cool. And you want some TI from me? Financials look good. Let me get back to you. They're going to go back and say, okay, he's going to pay me this in rent. This is how much it's going to mean to me annually. Plus, I got to pay the broker, and I'd like to get this money back in 3 years. I'm going to jack up the rent a bit. He's offering me $45 a square foot. I want $53. That's what I'm going to need to get my money back in 3 years. So that may work for some of you, but understand that that's how that dynamic plays out. So look for opportunities to secure any kind of concession. So like a free rent period. Can you extend it? Have a reduced rent for the first year. Push off those percentage increases for the first 3 years. The argument being, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Landlord, I'm sure you guys have dealt with restaurants before. it takes us a couple years to really get our feet under us. And it would be hugely helpful if we can push off our percentage increases till year 4. You're not going to get it if you don't ask for it. Okay. That may be a bit of a conversation. Maybe they're going to let you go 1 year, 2 years, but whatever you can get is going to be helpful, right? I would look for that. Look for a opportunity to have the increase only be every 3 years. It's a big ask, huge ask, but you can get it. You might have to make some other concessions on your side, but that's what this whole thing is about. Another thing is, and I just spoke to somebody about this on a call with Chip Close. Shout out to Chip Close, Restaurant Strategy Podcast. I was talking to one of his groups, and we were talking about this one restaurant out in California who pays a tremendous amount of money in common area maintenance. And in his lease, there is no cap on how high that can go. Meaning, if the landlord decides they want to replace all the light fixtures in the shopping center, you're paying for it on a per rata basis, per square foot basis. Okay. If they want to add shrubs on the strip median dividing the entryway of a shopping center, you're paying for it. My suggestion, look for caps on CAM. 5%, 3%, 5%. That type of negotiation is something that the landlord can appreciate. So this way, hey, I am looking in this area. Unlike the first strategy, we said, hey, you know what? I'm going to look a little bit outside. I don't think I can find anything here, can't afford it or whatever. If you want to go back to that target area and you think you can make something work, but the numbers are just a little off, look at the lease terms. Because negotiating goes 2 ways. One, you get the price, or you get the terms. You lose if you give up the price and the terms. Okay, there are very few locations that can have that type of leverage. So find the wiggle room where you're able to kind of say, I need these 5 things, but I'm more able to be flexible on these other 3 to 5 things. And find the little percentage points in there that will add up. I don't hopefully need to tell you guys how 1 percentage point can really make a huge, huge difference in the bottom line of your business. Lastly, another thing I would do if you're really struggling to look for or to identify another location, try or consider some alternative spaces. Try to find something different. For example, right now here in Rye, New York, I have a former ticket office. Okay. It's a ticket office that the MTA owned, and they want to convert it into some sort of F&B use because they feel like it'll bring more energy, more excitement. It'll just make the train station much more enjoyable for people. There's a big bar on the other side, but on the side going into Manhattan, there's nothing. Literally, it's an empty 2,000 square foot box, and they want somebody to do anything. They want them ideally to do coffee and maybe even something at night. So in Bronxville, which is closer to the city, they've done something similar where they have a cool little coffee shop on one side and a speakeasy on the other. I think something along those lines would play well here. And look, that is something that used to be like a little bit, I don't know, sort of worked there. People want cool experiences. So one of the things we thought about here was with the train. Like, oh man, it's going to be really loud. I mean, the place is right up against the train tracks. But the fact is it's not that loud. They've taken into consideration with the design and the windows and stuff that you hear it and you definitely see it. It's going, 6 feet in front of the window, but it adds to it, adds to the experience. Think about the little kids, how much they would love that, right? So look for a stadium, former, retail spaces that maybe they can be vented. If they can't be vented, can you look at something like a rational oven, ventless cooking? That is exactly the type of thought process you have to have. You need to evaluate the cost of converting a lot of these spaces against the potential savings, but the feasibility of them is something you got to start wrapping your head around. Can I convert this? Is this an opportunity or not? So I've said this before, but one of the first groups that I worked with, I won't mention their name, they have an amazing real estate strategy. It's very simple. They do their homework on the market and they say, this is where we want to be. These blocks, this intersection, off this highway, whatever it is. Every market's different, right? If there's nothing available, we make the calls. Hey, is this, vacant bank? Is this available? Can we vent it? Is this, former preschool? Can we do anything with this? Is this going to be a knockdown? Can we do a build to suit? Whatever it is. Make the phone calls and see what the options are in that market. If it's nothing, then we put it we bump it down on our pipeline and say, okay, we'll come back when something's available. But we've just let all the brokers know, a large majority of the landlords know that we're interested in this pocket. And then they move on. They don't get set on this one area and then get frustrated and say, why is there nothing available? The market doesn't change that quickly. You got to start looking at different things, different ideas, and having conversations. That's really what it boils down to. Get creative. If you think you've combed through the market, comb through it again. I guarantee you didn't, particularly right now. And I'm giving away some of my little secret sauce here. And some of you guys might be in this position and you can appreciate this, and I completely understand it, where I'll cold call you at your restaurant, or I'll email you, set up a call and we talk. And I'll say, hey, given the market, just kind of calling to see where restaurant owners are at. I know it can be kind of a hectic time. And if you had any plans to sell or what your thoughts are for the rest of the year, something like that. Sure, a good amount of guys will hang up on me, but some will say not right now. And some who have said not right now call me back, say, hey, you called me like a year ago. Actually, I'm ready to sell my restaurant now. So if you don't have a broker willing to do that type of work for you, number one, let me know. If you're in a major market, I could find somebody who will do it for you in a heartbeat. Or B, make the calls yourself. Because if you just approach them in a way like, hey, if now's a good time, maybe this works for both of us, the right person will be like, wow, I'm really glad we spoke. So some people might get pissed at you, walk away, get angry, kick you out, I don't know, whatever. But you're trying to run a business. You're not trying to make friends. If the guy in the corner whose pizza place would be great for your donut concept, if you approach him and he gets angry, fuck it. So what? Hey, sorry, I just asked. I'm just asking. Because I will bet anything, if we had the ability to go back inside that pizza guy's brain just got angry at you, when he's driving home at night, or maybe the next day, or on his work in the morning on Friday, he's going to say, yeah, maybe I should think about selling this place. So don't give up on it. If you're honing on an area, do your homework or find a broker who will help you. And that's it. That's my rant on the rents. So you can't get the rent you want. Stop beating your head against the wall thinking that the market's going to change. A, it doesn't change that quickly. B, it's probably never going to go down. So you got to start looking for new opportunities. That's where you're going to really make your money. Find that location that's on the cusp of your trade area where you still reach those core customers and they can still access you easily, but the rent is a third or half of what it was. That's where you're going to really make money. All right. One last thing I want to talk about, because it was pretty interesting to me. I don't know. I spoke about the bear briefly a while ago, and I've spoken about it in my content before, but this show's not relaxing to me. It's a little triggering, right? And I can sense all of the anxiety and the stresses. I can relate to them on a level where I'm like, I don't want to relate to that right now. I want to chill with my wife and watch something enjoyable. But that show straddles the line. So it takes you in and out. Some episodes are a little bit more hardcore than the other. But the third season of The Bear was just kicked off. I don't know if you guys have binged it or whatever. I kind of just got started. The third season prominently features one of my favorite things, which are watches. I love quality watches and luxury watches. Call them whatever. I don't even care if it's a Rolex or any other any other high-end watch. Why can't I think of them right now? I don't care what it is. I just like a cool watch. And then I'll go see, oh, wow, that's $40,000 Rolex Daytona. That's not what I was interested in. But, oh, that's $200? What's that one that I really like? Damn, they're from Detroit. It's like Shin something. I don't know, whatever. I just like cool watches. So this episode, and the season actually, but they're highlighting the significance in fine dining and chef culture of having these luxury watches as status symbols and essentially tools for timing. Because if you're in fine dining, there are no timers. There are no, big clocks on the wall that are going to give you a timer. There's a clock on the wall that'll give you the time, but nothing that's going to be overtly loud. So the watch is for fine dining chefs. So in this episode, so I got some notes here. They are making a point to say these watches are actually kind of showing you the status of each individual chef. So, for example, they say pastry chef Marcus Brooks upgrading from a vintage G-Shock to a Tissot Gentleman's Powermatic, reflecting his refined style and his seriousness. So basically, he left the rubber G-Shock alone. Now he's working more intensely. He's more refined. He's a pastry guy. He's, hands are very delicate working with things, and it shows his seriousness. And they want you to pick up on that stuff, which is very nuanced. I also noticed that in the episode, real life chefs were in there. Got a lot of pushback too about promoting toxic culture, but that's a whole another episode. But real life chefs, Danielle Boulud and Thomas my God. Danielle Boulud and Thomas Keller are featured wearing their Rolexes, their actual watches. One is a GMT Master, the other one's a Daytona. Really, we all know, as I mentioned, because it's the only one I can remember. Then there's the AP watch, APs, which are super expensive, Omegas, right? Super nice watch, but they are in any business, right? Not just in the kitchen. You see somebody wearing a Rolex, you're like, wow, this dude makes money. So I thought that was very cool. The connection of that to the restaurant industry was not only very cool, but to me, it's kind of like what I want this show to be more about. I want it to be more about the lifestyle. So while we all are not wearing Rolexes right now, we all have an appreciation for finer things. So let's talk about those things. What are those other lifestyle things that mean something to us as operators? Because I'm a big believer in that owning a restaurant is not just a business, it's a lifestyle. What that means is we all kind of are like the same person in this. We like great watches. We like to go out to good meals. We like to travel. We like to play golf. We like to smoke cigars. So in ending this episode, if any of you are experts in those fields or have a passion for any one of those things, hunting, skiing, pickleball, padel. It's called padel, by the way. I don't know if you know these guys call it paddle. It's called padel. Those things are all kind of in our lifestyle. Cool sneakers, sneakerhead culture, cannabis, cooking with cannabis, enjoying cannabis on your days off. All these things I want to bring to the forefront of Close Monday. So if that's any of you guys, please let me know. Would love to hear from you and have you on the show. You can contact me on Instagram. You can comment on the YouTube video here, or you can email me at Kyle, Kyle, at four-turns.com, Kyle@4-turns.com. And I'd love to talk to you guys about any of that stuff, because I think that really cross-cultural display, I guess you'd say, of the bear is really kind of mimicking the direction we'd like to go with the show. So if that's you, hit me up. And look, enjoy the summer. It is time to make money for a lot of you guys. Go Colombia against Argentina, and I will check you guys out next week. Thanks.